So you see, you have this part of the mind, okay? We call this a frontal cortex. Within the frontal cortex, right? So if you could go inside your brain, we can see the frontal cortex of the brain. That's housed what's called your intelligence, your reasoning, your rationality, your observation, and all this stuff in your life. In other words, it's called the conscious logical mind. Now, within the frontal cortex, it can only see like a spectrum of reality. So remember now, in quantum theory and quantum physics, right? How do we see reality? You see reality through photons, or what we call light. When you open your eyes in the morning, photons are emitted into the visionary cortex, and boom, your world appears. That's quantum theory right there, okay? The next thing about reality is there exist numerous possibilities of different realities. Okay, I'll go back. So you guys remember when I won that first lottery, I wasn't in my current reality at that time, because my current reality back then was a reality that was programmed into my mind that life and winning and anything of that sort was based on probabilities or chances or luck. So at that time, I had my ego manipulating my reality through my unconscious mind. But once I started to understand how quantum theory works and see that when an electron or a particle, it has two things. It's either spinning up or it's spinning down. That's information. Everything spins, or everything oscillates. That's how it creates the frequency, and that's how we see life. If you break it down even more, it's actually strings. And these strings, based on the way the strings vibrate at that quantum level, they create objects. It's like a musical instrument. So once I started to understand that stuff, then I started to go even deeper. I was like, okay, so that means that there has to be realities that I haven't experienced yet, but they are there because I can conjure them up. You follow me? So we have that going. So here's what happens. Now, when you have this reality that exists in infinite probabilities or possibilities, you get to experience your manifestation. Everything you're going to manifest must first come in the mental. So whenever you're going to experience anything, you never experienced anything in the physical. People will say, well, man, I've just experienced this. No. What you're experiencing is a feedback loop. Check this out. Everything that you're going to experience must first be previewed in the mental or your imaginary state. Everything you're going to experience must first become in the mental, because here's how this world and everything works. From the mental creates the physical. Let's go even deeper than that. The physical is actually an abstract view of the mental. The reason why you call it physical is because of the vibratory frequencies. They are so dense and they operate at such a low state, it gives us the illusion of solidity. But everything, in fact, is a transparent. So if you want to get technical, the real world or everything is actually spiritual. There is no physical. Physical is an illusionary concept or construct that your brain gets into. So the spiritual will always be the first. When I talk about spiritual, keep in mind, spiritual means non-physical. Spiritual means transparent, energetic, mindfulness, imagination. So that means whatever you're going to create, anything in your life, it must come in the mind. So there's the first tip now. If you want to win at life, anything, the lottery, anything, you have to experience that win already in the mental. If you can't experience the win in the mental, it's not going to happen in the physical. I'm sorry. If you can't experience what you want in the mental, it will never happen in the physical. When I was doing this thing to win the lottery, and every time I go into my zone to manifest or win the lottery, I always go into a visual construct of what I want. In this visual construct, I create a whole new reality in my mind. And in this reality, I have the senses and I have the feelings in there. So when I win, I won already in my mental. in the mental aspect of this thing, I experience the wind. When I experience the wind, that's when it happened in the physical. Okay? Now listen, I already won. Okay? Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm telling you. The minute I put it in the mental, I already won. Now let's go to the frontal cortex. Frontal cortex. This is where it messes you up. You see, this is where it messes you guys up. Okay, look. You know what? You got to understand something, people. That's what I'm teaching you here. To the ones who can get this, your life is going to change. The ones who don't get it yet, your life will eventually change. But for the ones who do get it, it's going to be an instant change. Because here's the stuff, guys. Your mental construct eventually becomes the physical construct. The mental construct eventually becomes the physical construct. Your mental construct can become your physical construct a lot faster if only you allow or disallow the frontal cortex to interrupt that pattern. It's always a pattern interruption. The pattern interruption comes in through the frontal cortex. So let me give you let me give you an example what I'm talking about. I love to use examples, and of course I love to use myself as an example because people can relate to other people. So let's go as the first example. So when I manifested the lottery and I'm there visualizing and I have all this thing in my head, I've already created the win. But at that time, I wasn't aware of how quantum theory truly works. So I allowed my frontal cortex, my ego, to pattern interrupt me. What does that mean? It meant I kept delaying my own manifestation because I kept looking for it. I kept looking for when I was going to win. I kept looking for how it's going to happen. Well, not how with the lottery, but more when. I kept wondering, why is it taking so long? What I was doing at that time, I was self-sabotaging my own creation. So I switched up the program. Okay. So once I because I've already experienced the win. I had goosebumps. I was at it. Money, car, I got it already in my mind, in the mental. But I was waiting for the physical. That's where I messed up. I allowed my ego to manipulate me. So I fixed it. I fixed it by fixing my ego. You have to recondition the ego to see what actual reality is. And remember now, your ego works different than what? Your subconscious mind, right? Here's the thing now. The ego and the subconscious. There's two things you have to work to fix this stuff. If you want to fix the ego, you have to fix the ego through logic, structure, provide proof, and provide evidence. Logic, structure, proof, evidence. Got that? That's to fix your ego. To do your subconscious mind, you never have to do any of that. All you have to do is put a program in the subconscious mind. And once the program gets in the subconscious mind, subconscious accepts whatever goes in. That's good, and that could also be bad because a lot of us, we get bad programming in the subconscious mind. So to fix the ego, you have to do this. So you have to reteach your ego how the nature of reality works. Once your ego understands how reality works, you fix it. Your ego will no longer attempt to sabotage you because your ego is going to look for evidence. For example, all right, so I want to manifest this. So you're telling me there are different realities that I can experience. This is what your ego is going to say to you, okay? It's what your conscious, logical mind will always say to you. So you're telling me that there's all these different, numerous realities that I can experience, okay? So your ego says, provide me proof of that. Because that's what your ego wants. Your ego will leave you alone when you can provide evidence or proof of something that correlates to what you're projecting. Your ego will find proof. So here's how you find the proof. You use the quantum theory. You say, all right, ego, look at this. Look at how we're made. We discovered that particles or photons of light is what we're made of. Ego said, okay, where's the evidence? Oh, look, here's the experiment. Here's the physicist. Here's the conclusion. Ego says, Okay, all right, that's true. Voila. When the ego says that's true, voila. Now it cannot refute you because remember, ego wants evidence and proof. Evidence and proof. And when you show evidence and proof of all these different theories and these experiments, and you show them how reality works, and the ego, because the ego is very smart now, it's going to understand, and it's going to say, ego's going to say, ah, that makes sense. As baffling as it can be to your ego, the ego will say, man, that makes sense. Now you can move over into the manifesting process.